Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our March 2023 St. Paul Speaker Series. Today we'll be discussing Moringa and how to form a circular economy out of that resource. Our guests are Professor Kwaambwa, who's a professor of chemistry and associate dean at the School of Natural and Applied Sciences at the Namibia University of Science and Technology in Windhoek, Namibia. Our other guest is Professor Chimuka, who's professor of chemistry and head of Department of Environmental Chemistry at Wits University in Johannesburg, South Africa. Our other guest is Professor Chishimba Mowa, who's a professor of physiology and in the Department of Human Biology and also associate dean of research at Kettering College in Dayton, Ohio, in the US. Our fourth guest, she might join later, is Mrs. Esther Kwaambwa, who's a PhD student or candidate at the Northwestern University in South Africa. Her thesis is on Moringa, actually. It's entitled An Analysis of the Value Chain of Moringa oleifera in Selected SADC Countries. So this panel is very experienced in this crop, and they have a vision for our country on how we can use this to create jobs, nutrition, and health. So to start off, I'll let Dr. Mowa maybe just further introduce what the vision is, and then Professor Kwaambwa is going to carry on from that. So the rest of the guys, if you have a question, of course, it goes in the chat. But after the presentation is over, we shall have some questions that you can ask directly to the panelists. Okay, with that introduction, please, Professor Mowa, you go ahead.
Thank you so much, Professor Kapatamoyo, for giving us this opportunity to share something that we are so passionate about. The three of us are researchers in Moringa. I'm based in Dayton, Ohio. Professor Kwaambwa is in Namibia, and Professor Chimuka is in South Africa. Several years ago, I wanted to start research in natural products because growing up, I'm sure you can all relate. When you had a fever, your mom would just go in the backyard and steam the leaves and cover you, and that's gone. So I was fascinated by that, but I'm not trained in herbs. So I thought I should train myself. So I started working on American natural products. You may have heard about some of them, and then I met a Zimbabwean professor, a nursing professor in North Carolina, and she talked about Moringa. I'd never heard about it. And when somebody talks to you about Moringa, it sounds very fictional. And in my heart, I was telling this good friend of mine that I am a scientist. I don't deal with fiction. And so I basically ignored her, and I didn't take up the invitation to collaborate with her. And then I went to South Africa, and I met Professor Chimuka, who I've known for years, and he talked to me about the same story about Moringa. And I believed him because I knew him. And so I jumped on the Moringa bandwagon, and I threw every American medicinal herb and jumped on Moringa. And then we realized that Professor Kwaambwa and Professor Chimuka and I were doing this research in our respective countries, and Zambia was not benefiting. So we thought, okay, we need to create a company which we named Kwaambwa Chimuka Mowa, KCM, Moringa Innovation, and Professor Kwaambwa will talk about it. He's our managing director. This is registered in Zambia. And the goal really was to help develop the Moringa industry in Zambia based on facts, based on evidence, science. So we did everything we can to promote Moringa in Zambia. In fact, I even went to the First Lady's, I went to the State House to explain to the First Lady just the benefits of Moringa. And so this is really the background to our story. Right now, we have planted Moringa in Lusaka West. We have over 2,000 plants, and we really are willing to work with anybody, including the government, to promote the Moringa industry in Zambia. So I'll end there. Professor Kwaambwa is the expert in this, and Professor Luke Chimuka. These two guys have done wonders in Namibia and South Africa. My interest really is on the medicinal aspects of Moringa. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mowa, for that introduction. And while Professor Kwaambwa transitions into the slides, I'd like to recognize Ms. Catherine Zulu, who's the Principal Forestry Officer in Zambia. So she's in the group as well, and might have some insights from what the government is doing about this wonderful plant. Professor Kwaambwa, please go ahead and share your slide.
Are the slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me just do something. I think Professor Mowa mentioned where we are coming from, and basically for me, the story is really started with I was looking at the water treatment aspects of Moringa. And it was actually accidental how I came up about Moringa. I just finished my PhD in the UK, and I saw this magazine where a professor from Leeds had done some work in Malawi. And then I just cut that piece of paper and stuck it in one of the books. And when I got to University of Botswana, one student wanted to do natural products, and then I said, "Why don't you do this?" And because the funding agents wanted someone to do something in natural products, and that's basically how the story started around 2002, 2004. So what I'm going to really talk about really is some of the work we have done and what we see as the potential of Moringa for Zambia in a circular economy, or Moringa for a circular economy. Maybe as a starting point, I just want to mention that there are different species of Moringa, and the common one is Moringa aurifera, which is widely cultivated. This originated from India. Moringa ovarifolia, the ones I've highlighted in red, these are the ones I have really worked on in terms of water treatment and other studies. Ovarifolia is only indigenous to Namibia and South Angola. Peregrani is found in the Arab countries. Then Stenopetala is more in the East Africa. If you look on the right there, you can choose two people. One of them is Professor Chimuka, when we did some work on Moringa ovarifolia here in Namibia. Now, then the question is really, why Moringa? Moringa really addresses a number of SDGs. We have about 17 of them, and you can put something about Moringa to any of them, any of those 17 goals. But if you think about it, The direct ones, there are actually 6 of them. You can end poverty, end zero hunger in terms of nutrition. You can provide good health, something that Professor Mowa has been doing. Climate action, we have been also looking at how Moringa can mitigate climate change and variability. Clean water, something I have done quite a lot of work on. So these 6 they do really have, Moringa has got direct response to these SDGs. The other reason is that Moringa grows very fast, really. I have some pictures here of myself trying to grow Moringa at the house, and you can see on the left, far left-hand corner, it was quite small in December. By the time we reached March, 2nd March, the tree was taller than me. And that is one thing. On the other hand, you can grow it from seeds or even from the cuttings. So it doesn't really matter. The 2 species I planted in the house, they are doing very well, and I could compare. I managed to see that Stenopetala is good in terms of producing seeds. Oleifera is good in producing leaf biomass. What is common between the 2 is that they are not resistant to frost. So, but there are ways of handling that, which I may share a little bit later. The other reason why Moringa is such a good plant to look at is that every part of the tree has got some benefit. You can think of the seeds in terms of water treatment, you can get variable oil, the pods, you can make it for animal feed and so on. Then the flowers and the leaves, they are medicinal. 3 days ago, my wife and I had a cold, and we just made the concoction of Moringa based on Moringa. Now we are both fine. We are doing okay. Even during COVID, we just used to make a concoction of Moringa, and of course, we would add a little bit of honey into it. So as you can see on the slide, really there are so many applications of Moringa, and every part of the tree has some kind of social economic benefit that one can exploit. And this is really the basis of a circular economy, which I'm going to talk about. And my emphasis will be on the leaves and the seeds, because that is where we have really done some work, and we have evidence in terms of scientific evidence to that. If I take the leaves, for instance, they have got these phytochemicals that one can extract. So in terms of a business opportunity, one can make moringa tea from flowers. You can also take the leaves and maybe dry them and make capsules. You can make poultry feed and fish feed from the leaves. You can also just grind it and keep it as a leaf powder for yourself. And every time you take some food, you sprinkle a little bit of moringa leaf powder. I can attest, this is the first time I had flu in maybe 5-6 years, simply because I believe it's because I take moringa every evening when we are eating dinner. I was sprinkling a teaspoon of moringa leaf powder. And my father-in-law has got a problem of is diabetic and also sugar. He has got high blood pressure and sugar. And since he started to take moringa, everything is under control. He controls it quite well. So, and there are actually phytochemicals that one can extract and explain why you are able to tackle these ailments. One of the interesting studies we have done is to extract a biostimulant from moringa leaves. And this biostimulant can actually promote growth of your plants. We are testing cabbage, lettuce, we are also sunflower, and carrots, and spraying this biostimulant. It is easy to extract, and all you need to do is just spray a bit. It is not only that you increase the yields, also the crops grow faster. And again, there is a compound there that enables crops to grow faster. In terms of the leaves, again, you can make Moringa tea. Anything that is left out, you can make it as a bio-7 sorbent, in other words, to remove impurities from water. We have used the leaf powder to remove chromium. Any tannery discharges chromium. Chromium is a tanning agent, so which is used. So you can actually, before you dispose the water, you pass it through a column containing Moringa leaf powder, and then you can remove the chromium, and you can regenerate it. And there are some studies that we have done to that effect. So that's about the seeds. There are many other applications. I haven't talked about what Professor Mowa has done. Maybe one other thing I should mention is that we have also done some experiments where we're growing other things together with Moringa and see the effect. And also at the same time, one could just grow Moringa and then put your beehives in there, and you have Moringa honey, which is really can sell a lot. It has more nutrients than normal honey because Moringa has got also these vital nutrients that are required for the body. So you can see the circularity of simply the leaves only. And remember, when you grow Moringa, you can also absorb carbon dioxide. Many of these plants, there are 4 types of how plants absorb CO2. And Moringa utilizes 3 out of 4, which is rare to any plant. Not many plants you can claim to have. We can say that they can do that. So in other words, Moringa can continue absorbing CO2 during the day and at night. So that's another thing that is very interesting about Moringa. In terms of the seeds, you can have your pods, and again, you take out the seeds, you get your kernels. The kernels can be used for water treatment because that's where the protein that is active in removing impurities is. We have extracted the protein. If you look on the far left-hand corner on the right, there's a bottle which is got white stuff. That's how the protein looks like. But you don't need to get to that point. You can actually simply take the powder, disperse it in clean water, and then filter through a cloth. That filtrate, you pour it in dead water. Within a few minutes, the water would clear. What I have at the bottom, you can see, is Coca-Cola, and I simply added powder from it, and it cleared. The cake can actually also use as manure or fertilizer, and then you can use it for improving your Moringa again, and then the Moringa again can go give you more seeds, and so on. So you can see the circularity. The oil can be used for cosmetics. I have had a student who is working on extracting the oil for use to minimize pimples. And actually, Professor Chimuka can attest to this because he uses the extract from the leaves to actually make a cream for his daughter. And so far, I'm told the pimples are gone. So you can see that you can actually utilize it for cosmetics, and you can make a biorefinery. And again, here you make more value-added products which are more advanced. But for someone maybe on a small scale, you can just extract the oil and make your own cosmetics. So in a nutshell, I would say that here is a tree that is a multi-purpose tree where you can create businesses from it, job creation, you can do income generation, you can do climate smart agriculture where you do agroforestry, improve community health, and also for nutrition. This is just showing you the biostimulant and some of the crops we have tested, and the results really are positive. And you can see that the plant growth increases by 15 to 40%, and the yield also is improved. And the water use is, you don't need really to water that much because of spraying the biostimulant you get from Moringa. Then you can also, as I said, in terms of the circular bio-based circular economy, as I said, water treatment, animal feed, you can make biomaterials, bioenergy, you can also do bioenergy from it. But the point is the oil you get from Moringa is more precious. So people would rather not use it for biodiesel or a biofuel, but rather you use it for cosmetics and get more money out of it. Again, this is again showing some of the other routes one can take to utilize the Moringa biomass, but I really don't want to dwell much on this. But here is what KCM's value proposition at the moment is all about in terms of creating business opportunity for Moringa, based on some of the evidence or studies we have done. You can see we can prepare a bioflocculant. In other words, from the protein, you can make a bioflocculant, which ultimately you can use as maybe put it in a capsule, and that capsule you just throw it in water and the water would clear. You can get your oil and make cosmetics. We have so far, personally here at Namibian University of Science and Technology, we have developed 2 prototypes of the water treatment system. And the one you see at the bottom right-hand corner is a second prototype. It incorporates sand and charcoal, just ordinary charcoal, and Moringa is quite versatile. But we have gone, the one we are developing now is very compact, doesn't have so many compartments. And the idea is that this filter, anybody can make it up, fabricate it, and use it, especially in rural areas. And the motivation for me was that when I was growing up, my parents were staying downstream, and we would be drawing water from the river and drink that water without even treating it. So I sometimes think that maybe if I know what I know now, probably I would have added a year to another day to my parents or something, because of the benefits of Moringa. So that's, then we are also obviously in terms of formulating livestock feed, both from the leaves and the seed kernels. We can also get a leaf concentrate, which Professor Chimuka has actually patented the extraction method using hot water extraction method to extract a concentrate. And this concentrate can be used to make different beverages, iced tea, mineral water, and so on. So if Professor Chimuka has joined us, I think he will make a comment on that. We can make Moringa tea from the leaves, and again, the leaf powder, and then also fortifying your foodstuffs instead of just making maybe biscuits just like that. You can add a little bit of Moringa to it, and so that you have nutrients. So what I have in the next slide is just to show you that in the Moringa project itself, there are many players that came into play. And secondly, there are many products one can look at. The idea we have is to engage outgrower scheme. And KCM with any other partners in Zambia, it could be the government or any individuals, we come together and create, say, a Moringa processing plant. And what the smallholder farmers can do, or we can train them, is to grow Moringa organically so that it is suitable for export to international markets. We already have contacts in Germany where if we are able to grow according to HACCP or process Moringa according to HACCP and have it organically certified, the market is limitless, according to the company we deal with in Germany. So we can also, under that central processing facility, do some R&D in terms of coming up with the new products, or even packaging our products before distributing to the retailers and so on. So this is just the view we have of social business enterprise. The idea of this model is that that KCM doesn't want to benefit alone. We are asking ourselves to say, how do we make communities also benefit from our activities? So the farmer should just concentrate on producing, and we show that farmer how to produce Moringa to international standards, or even if they just want to do it for local market, we are willing to show them how to do it, because we have gained the experience of how to grow Moringa from production up to export market. This is just to show you the idea of how one can set up the processing plant. Remember, if you enter from what I've called the delivery hall, you don't have to go back, because to avoid contamination. So you have your leaves maybe going to the pruning room, the washing room, and then a drying room. And then for the seeds, they go to where you're grinding it. And then you have your packaging and storage, and you have a small testing lab. And again, this design meets the standards required by HACCP, a way of certifying safety of the food product you are producing. So in conclusion, really, I want to say that I hope I have demonstrated the benefits of Moringa and how you can create a circular economy by looking at only one part of the tree, and then you are able to create a circular economy. So Moringa really provides a green growth path, which is low carbon, resource efficient, biodiversity compatible through agroforestry, and socially inclusive, because we're going to include communities in co-design, in terms of co-designing whatever your products you want to make. So otherwise, this is what I wanted to say for now, and I'll hand over to the chair. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor Kwaambwa. This was actually very insightful, very concise, and a lot of information. Somebody else with your same last name joined us. I don't know if that is the good wife, or it was your other advice.
That's her. But I think she will talk about just briefly, maybe if you give her maybe 5 minutes.
Yes, please. Yeah,
we've
been waiting to hear from her.
Slide. Yes, please, and then we can.
Mrs. Kwaambwa, please go ahead. And thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm struggling to share. Could Prof. Kwaambwa share what I sent you?
Yes, he can. Or if he kills his PowerPoint, you can share yours. Professor Kwaambwa, please drop your PowerPoint, and then we'll have her share her own.
If you can share for me from that side.
Okay. Mr. Gandiza, we're going to
You
answer your
can't share
question
because
later.
my email is not working.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay. Let me see if I can quickly get it. I don't know if it's the full. Yes. Can you see it?
No, not yet.
Okay. No. Did I say share? My apologies.
No, no worries. As you are setting up, we actually introduced you earlier and
Yeah.
spoke about your dissertation, so you could talk about that as well.
Yes. I'm currently doing my PhD with the University of Northwest University in South Africa.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and we want to look at the analysis of Moringa value chain in the selected SADC countries. And these selected SADC countries would be Namibia, Zambia, Botswana, South Africa, Swaziland, Malawi, and Tanzania. The reason we chose these countries is because they are involved in Moringa oleifera production. So this is why my supervisors were Professor Sam Litwalo and my co-supervisor is Dr. Tina Moyo.
Oh,
So I am just coming in through value chain, but can you see this if I shared?
no, not yet.
Oh, let me see. The technology is failing me. Okay, let me just go back because my slides are only 3 actually. I just wanted to explain the conceptual framework and also the value chain, what we want to look at. But I don't know what's happening.
The professor has the same slides. Maybe he can share from his end.
Yes, I emailed him. Yeah.
Let me try.
Okay.
Let me try.
Sure. What's happening?
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, it has started sharing. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you will tell me when to go forward, please.
Oh, okay. I already introduced the topic that we are looking at the analysis of Moringa oleifera value chain in the selected countries, which are SADC countries. And I said it was Namibia, Botswana, Swaziland, Malawi, and Zambia, and Tanzania. Yeah, we can go to the other slide, please.
But going to the next one. Okay, there you go.
Yes, please. Okay. So this is the conceptual framework I was talking about, where we have Moringa oleifera production and agribusiness. Like I said, me, I'm an agriculturalist, so I specialize in agri-economics. So we are looking. So you have Moringa oleifera production, of which is also an agribusiness. Then you have this the enabling environments, which will be the microclimate and the sectoral policies and regulations. Then you move to the policies, because what we want is after what we are, because what I will be working on, it will be secondary data. So we are going to be getting most of our data from the SADC countries. Will be dealing with looking at different productions that they are involved in. As we know, each country would have different things that they'll be doing. So after we have managed to get that data, now we'll run, because what we want is to do a model, a business model that can help smallholder farmers. So we will be able to maybe advise the policymakers to say if they can come up with to advise the farmers on how they can do this production, from production until to the marketing aspect. So that's what us will be looking at. So as you can see down there, there's pre-production, supply of inputs, we have production, post-production, industrial, processing, up to marketing. These facilitating services will be like the transport, storage, processing, packaging, which Professor already explained how it's done. So we'll be getting information from the studies that has been done in all these SADC countries. For instance, in Zambia and South Africa, there's quite a lot that is going on there where production is concerned. So we will be looking at all that. And then once we are done, we have gotten the data, now we'll come up with a model that we'll use. And our intention is if we can do some publications so that write articles so that we'll be able to, people can be able to read and follow what or how one can start a small business. Why did we choose Moringa? We are now living in a world where climate change, most crops that we thought could grow, like for instance, back home in Zambia, we relied so much on maize and other things, but now Moringa has proved to say that you don't need so much, it doesn't need so much maintenance, you don't need to, or water. So it's the drought resistant plant, like it has been explained by the scientists. So it can be a game changer to farmers, those that are struggling, you know, to bring up crops. I'll give you an example. My parents they have a small farm where they planted maize, and in Southern it doesn't rain. So they lost out, you know, because this year there was no rainfall. But if they had planted Moringa by now, they could have been harvesting or something. So that's why we're looking at that. We're coming from that angle. Yeah. Basically, like I said, we also for income generation. For my master's, I did investigation of Moringa, potential for Moringa for rural livelihood, youth rural livelihood. And my study was in Livingstone. And we looked at Mosokotwane and Mukuni. And the study that we got is that people, yes, they are aware, they know about Moringa, but they don't know that they can actually get income out of it, or it can be an income generation. That's what my studies, when I did my master's, that's what we found. It was funded by IFAD through IIT. So those are the findings that we found. Yeah, maybe you can go down to the next slide. So as economists, agri-economics wants to come up with a way of how do we help small holder farmers, those that are struggling, how could we help them so that this if they can produce or they can be involved in Moringa business per se, would they be able to generate money? So that's what we are trying to achieve in our research. Yes. The other slide,
Maybe
please.
just go ahead with this. Can you just go ahead with the next slide, please? Because I'm failing to move the next one. Just
Okay,
talk about it.
Yes, so the next slide is just basically we just show the supply the supply chain, like how do you from what process to the other. So it's just that I can't see it here, but it's just explaining about how the supply chain, how the value chain how you can follow it in that aspect. Yeah, there's nothing really much, but the conceptual framework is the one which actually explains more of what we are looking at. So yes, so God willing, if I complete my PhD, we want to look at how we would help the small holder farmers to engage into Moringa business, and also help them with that model, how the market, because the other problem is, how do they access the market? Others were saying they produce, but they don't know, they don't have anywhere they can sell their product. So we are hoping that with the model that we'll have with my supervisors that we're trying to come up with, it can help answer some of these questions. I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So Professor, just drop that slideshow. We have a lot of questions for you. So thank you so much, Mrs. Kwaambwa. I think the best way to describe your current state in your academic career is to say when I finish the PhD, and not if I finish the PhD, because I think you're really this close to finishing. I mean, having gone through all this conceptual framework and literature review and all that stuff, yeah, you're very close. We're very proud of the work you're doing. So just to summarize the three presenters today, what we've heard is that Moringa is really a wonder plant. One, it addresses some of the systemic issues that even governments are looking at. For example, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, that have been set by the United Nations and all countries of the world, especially the 6 that you identified, which include health, water, nutrition, agriculture, climate, and so forth. And then just by having this plant, we learn how adaptable it is in terms of the little water is needed, the speed of growth, being grown from seeds and from cuttings, and then the stuff that's extracted out of it, such as medicines, oils, used for human consumption, honey, biostimulants, it's bioabsorbents, and also water treatment. There's actually a question in the chat about the water treatment, how that actually works. So I'll let Mr. Gandiza ask it himself. We also learned about the business model and KCM MCI as a startup. We appreciate the diagram that you put there, because it makes the next person that's going to do this project have less thinking about how the whole thing looks. One thing that I really liked was that you can actually patent, as Professor Chimuka has done. That will give you property intellectual income. And then the inclusion of other people, especially the smallholder farmers. This makes it broader and increases employment. The idea that Mrs. Kwaambwa just mentioned about publication is really nice. There's actually a question from one of my colleagues about the local names of this product. So if you are going to be publishing this, I think it gets to more people. And that also addresses the issue of communication that you said. Some people do not just know about these benefits, but once it's published, I guess it can increase that knowledge. I was just going to say that since you did your research for your master's in Livingstone, and people there might not have known what you're doing, one way to actually publicize what's going on is to put some of these statements on all those government cars, in Zambia. Zambia has so many GRZ vehicles that are all just white with a little, acronym on the door. So they could put billboards, at the back of the vehicle that says, Moringa is nice, or something like that. Anyway, so I'm going to let my colleagues ask questions. We'll start with the two Gandizes. The older one, Norbert Gandiza, the question. Mr. Gandiza, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Professor. My questions to do with, I saw an aspect of water quality control. One of the biggest challenge we have in Zambia right now is issues to do with iron content in water and also salt. So my question is, what exactly aspect of water treatment does the Moringa has, so that we can proceed with the research and development and see whether it is able to bring aspects of treatment to do with the iron content in water and also the issues of salt in water. Because there are so many boreholes. I've been involved in borehole drilling and the water in the rural areas of Zambia. And one of the problems, you will find that maybe we have over 1,000 boreholes, which communities are not able to use because of either ionic content or salt. So that is my question. The second one is to do with this outgrower. There's plenty of land in Mowa, for example, where I come from, and they have got more than 500 hectares of land. And I would like to participate as an outgrower. What is the procedure? What are the steps that we need to take to begin to grow Moringa? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. For the first one, Moringa can remove different types of impurities. What is interesting is that, if you remember in my slides, I did mention that you have a protein, and normally proteins, they do have positive charge and a negative charge. So one of the questions we wanted to ask you to find out is, why was it removing heavy metals like copper, zinc, lead? Now you come to the iron, chromium, and so on. When it is overall, the protein is positively charged. And we did figure it out to find out that actually there are also negative parts which are exposed. And so when you put your biosorbent in water, it is going to attract even those that are positive, even if it is positively charged, because there is always a statement to say the like do not, the opposite charges attract each other. But in this particular case, the same charges, the like charges can actually still attract each other. So we have actually found out that it is actually possible. So in terms of removing salts, also we have tested over a wide range of salt concentrations and also looked at hard water to make it soft. And Moringa does work quite well. The only challenge we still have is really to be able to tell how much you must add. If you are adding the powder itself, how much powder you add. The thinking we have now is maybe to get some kind of like a litmus paper color change, so that if, say, you take your water and it is colored in a certain way, you know, under that pH litmus paper, you can tell if it's limited grayish, and your litmus paper on grayish, it might say put 1 gram in 1 liter or something like that. So that's the thinking. But if the water is again clear, but it's still having a lot of iron in content, the point is that if you add Moringa, it is going to take it out. And we have really proved that. If you just Google my name, you find quite a lot of publications on removal of heavy metals from water using Moringa. Then with regard to the outgrowers scheme, I think Professor Mowa might answer that, but at the moment, the idea we have is that if we can find funding, then we can go out to communities and identify those who are interested in being outgrowers and get trained in cultivating Moringa. But for starters, if your interest is really to start now, well, just get in touch. I'll be able to send my email address to the chairperson, and then I can give you just an outline of how you can begin. But the important thing is just get your land, clear it, and then if there are animals around, you can fence it and so on. And then maybe we can test the soil quality of which we can easily do ourselves, and just to make you get started. So, but I think Professor Mowa might have more to say on that aspect. Thank you.
Prof, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, please add.
It's very easy if you already have a cooperative than an individual. Then it's easy for us to come into your cooperative, and as Professor Kwaambwa said, then we can once we source funds, then we can have a processing plant established around the cooperative. Again, the issue is money, and this is, I'm glad Mrs. Zulu is here, and listening to Mrs. Kwaambwa present, what came to my mind is, if we can come together and create an ecosystem for Moringa industry in Zambia, we will need all the professionals involved, not just the scientists. We are on the ground, we're doing the research, but we'll need the farmer, we'll need the agroeconomists, we'll need the policymakers, we'll need the marketing people. So we have to create an ecosystem for this to work. It can't work with just a few scientists here and there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Ms. Zulu's connection dropped, but she should have really answered that question about government programs and so forth. The next person to ask is Mr. Lumba. You had a question. He's onward here. Maybe he dropped off as well. Are you here?
I have a question as well. I don't just know how to raise the hand on this platform.
Oh, I see. Maybe that's what Tachira was asking as well. But yeah, onward, if you're able to ask, please go ahead and ask. I see.
Okay, I was muted.
Okay.
Trying to get then if Moringa is a scientific name, and what are the local names? Maybe these things are already all around, and maybe people don't, when they hear Moringa, sometimes they will call them differently locally, and they don't know the benefits. Maybe they have heard of the benefits, but they don't know the local name. So they look at this tree and they might think, oh, it's a different tree. Moringa is a different tree, but it's around them. And then the other question that I wanted to say is, if because he says he's going to share, if I want to, because he has shared a number of Moringa trees and some which are very beneficial, so I would want to get in touch and say which type. Do they supply these Moringa, or how do I get in touch so that I get the best? And because also there is a type of soil that these trees are found, like in Chishimba, it's a clay, mostly clay soil, which is there. So sometimes these trees might not do well. So I want to get a contact so that these trees can start growing here and there. But the best is, do they supply?
Okay. As for the contacts, I'll definitely get those to you. And about the supply of the trees, Professor Mowa, do you want to jump into that, or?
We have a number of suppliers. We are not yet into the supplying, but there are a number of people in Zambia and organization. You may have heard about Mrs. Banda, Silva Banda. She's in the showgrounds. She's in the showgrounds. If you go to her cafeteria there, you can buy the Moringa seeds. But you can also get them from Moringa Development Corporation, owned by Mr. Banda. So there are many suppliers on the ground in Zambia. We are not yet into that.
What about the local names?
In Tonga, Kapulanga. In Tonga, Kapulanga. I don't know about the other languages. My wife is Tonga, and she grew up eating Moringa like Dr. Liswaniso, and it was the last resort as well.
I see. I think Professor Chinsembu in Namibia has written about this. Maybe I'll try and get his publication. And he has, right?
Yeah, he has, yes, yeah, it's true. I can't remember the names, but that's what Professor Mowa mentioned is what I know about. But Professor Chinsembu has written the local names. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll check with Professor Chinsembu, and so we can get names of all those Zambian languages, 72 of them, as far as I know. And
yeah,
the information. Okay.
Yeah. With regard to the other question where they're asking which variety, what I showed there is a different species of Moringa. And he's quite right. The growth conditions of the different species are different. But what I can say is that as long as the soil is not waterlogged, then Moringa will do well. So, and avoid very clay soils. It doesn't require a lot of water, so it means there must be drainage. So normally what we do is that if we want to plant Moringa in a clay soil, we mix it with sand.
Okay.
We mix it with sand. So that's true. But in terms of the properties we have looked at for the different species, in terms of water treatment, I would say that the ones I highlighted in red, those are the one where we took the seeds and analyzed their effectiveness in removing the impurities. And we also looked at amino acid composition. For all those 4 species we looked at, there was similarity. So the variations were minimal, I would say. So for Zambia, or in Southern Africa, the widely grown species Oleifera, but within Oleifera, there are other, there's a biological name they call it, genotypes or something like that. I can't remember the name. But where Professor Mowa mentioned, you can actually get the right seeds. And even for us, KCM, I think come August this year or something, I think we will start harvesting where we planted the Moringa. Thank you.
Fantastic. Next question was Mr. Tashila Zulu. You had a couple questions.
Yes, Professor, thank you. Mine was a very simple one. Basically, is there a vetting system for the Moringa products? First off, let me just say the Moringa products, they've been received quite well. In fact, very well, not quite well. I've been hearing about Moringa ever since I left university, but it's been a myth. My question, which I'll put out to the professors and everybody, is is your product being put through a vetting system? We have, for instance, the common one, Zambia Bureau of Standards. Maybe Zambia Bureau of Standards does not certify products like Moringa. But aside from that, is there a body that we can go to where we can have faith that the product we are getting and the byproducts from Moringa are certified and they are fit for purpose, as it were? Otherwise, my question is not meant to discourage anybody. It's actually for the better good. And I love the vibe. I love to hear about Moringa. I've got a lot of people who I hear about who take Moringa. And I'd just like to hear from you in terms of the vetting process. The product is being taken out there.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. It's a valid one. In my slides, I didn't mention that if you want your product certified organically, there are people or organizations that do that. We may not have them in Zambia, but in South Africa, they are there, that they can help you in terms of certifying your product. Then in terms of knowing what the product is about, I'm sure there are accredited labs and there are certain parameters you need to have them analyzed for your product, for whatever product you have, so that you are sure that it doesn't have those. When you say, one of the compounds that is really, if you are to export, it's called aflatoxin. And you cannot have aflatoxins in your product, whatever, if you're ready for export. I know of someone who exported, I can't remember the number of tons of Moringa to Germany, only to find that the product was contaminated with aflatoxin. That is why that idea of HACCP is very important. HACCP is simply, you may not get certification for it, but if you follow what they want you to do, ultimately your product will come out okay, because the HACCP part of it is really for quality control or safety, food safety protocols. So that's why if you look at the diagram I showed for the design of the building, the toilets are outside. And also when you take in a product, you must not go back to, because you can end up contaminating, to avoid cross-contamination. So once it leaves one side of the hole, it should not go back to that same hole. So there are those simple things that or steps one can take to make sure that you do not end up having a product that has, say, aflatoxins in it when someone analyzes. So and the farmers here, normally they just like bring their Moringa powder and then they tell us, can you determine whether there are heavy metals in my compound? What extent? Do they meet the minimum requirements? Or what, if you want to determine nutritional content, again, that is separate. But also you want to find out whether there are contaminants in your product. I don't know if but I'm sure that in Zambia we may have organizations that are certified where you can take your samples and analyze. And when you say that your product has got so much vitamin C, it's acceptable. You can even put a tag on your brand or something to say, this is what it is in my product. So that's what I can say with regard to the vetting system. I don't know if we already have, we may not have the vetting system for Moringa as such, but we may have vetting system for foodstuffs or for cosmetics and we can follow along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question was from the younger Gandize, Paul.
Yeah, I wanted to find out how long it takes to before we start using, say, the leaves and the other whatever, and when it starts producing seeds from either from a plant, a small plant, or from the seed itself. Thank you.
Yeah. From the seeds, you can actually get the pods within 9 months. But the leaves, you can start harvesting any time. From knee-high and upwards. It's really up to you for the leaves, for the biomass. But you may have to wait a little bit so that you get more biomass if you are interested in leaf biomass. But the point is, if you want to start harvesting, you can start harvesting as early as knee-high, which can be from transplanting from the seedlings to that within 2 months or so, 2 to 3 months. But the pods can come out within 9 months, especially if you water a little bit. Because Moringa does not require water. So if you plant in the rain season like November, I think by April, June, should be able to see the pods, because we are in the rain season and we are just coming out of the rain season to start flowering. And the point is, for Moringa, if you water it, it will start flower, it will flower throughout the year. It will be green throughout the year. It will have pod throughout the year. So there's no particular season to say, this is a season for the pods and this is a season for the flowers. No. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Carlo, you are next. You're the question.
Thank you, sir. And I must say that as we are speaking, I'm sipping on some Moringa tea here by a Zambian company called the Moringa Initiative. Company called the Moringa Initiative. And I'm not a paid spokesperson for them. That's
but I didn't get the name of the company.
It's called the Moringa Initiative. It's based out of Lusaka.
Oh, okay.
And I must say the packaging is world class. And so I'm surprised it's not in shelves all around the world, but very good product. My question had to do with the, I think you had mentioned something about, organic certification. And so I had a question regarding the type of diseases or pests that maybe these plants would be subjected to, and what the solutions would be to that, especially if you want to maintain that or organic certification for Moringa. Thank you.
Okay, with regard to certification, I think for the pests, maybe I can share something later with the chairperson, the professor. Then people can know what kind of pests one can encounter. But also there are organic way of preventing the pests. And in fact, the Moringa extract from the leaves can also be used for pest control. So if you are using that, then you are using something that is organic. So we are not using like a pesticide. So you will really get certification. So in terms of prevention of the pests and so on, I think once you look at that summary of the document, maybe I'll share with him if he doesn't mind, then you know what kind of pests. But it is rare that if you clear your land properly, it is rare that your plants will be attacked by pests. Normally what brings the pests is having grass and so on. So if you can actually be able to clear the land, weed every now and then, I think you will not have challenges of pests or diseases. But there are ways of doing it organically. Thank you.
Fantastic. We had another question from Professor Danny.
Let me unmute myself first. Okay, I actually had 5 questions, but I'll just try and combine them. I'll combine 2 of them for now. The first one is somehow related to your enterprise model. Apparently, I accidentally found myself in one of these trainings for business development models 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they talked about similar thing where you map they called it concept mapping, and all of those people in business, concept mapping idea, and that's what I saw on your enterprise model there. But in this short meeting that I attended, they encouraged us to narrow down to 1 or 2 concepts in your model. But what I see there are a lot of great ideas you have on your model. And if I had to ask you a question as to if you are to be given a choice to choose 1 or 2 directions of your product, which of those products would you concentrate on? That's question number 1. The second part of that question is, I know that just like Charlie has said, is sipping a cup of tea or Moringa tea. I also buy Moringa tea from my local Chinese shop. It looks like Chinese supermarkets have all these herbal teas and all that. And I found Moringa there, and I get it. I see that Moringa tea is definitely on the market and it's selling very well. Do you have an idea of what other products, like what from your enterprise model there, I saw that there's so many possibilities. Do you have a rough idea of what is lacking on the market at the moment? I think that's where you should fill the gap, because I see a lot of Moringa tea varieties on the market right now, and you don't want to go and start competing. I know competition is healthy, but to me, it's better to fill a vacant demand that people want on the market. So what I was trying to say, do you have a rough idea of what's really out of that many products you have shown us? What is lacking on the market? If you have to choose 1 or 2 of those products, which one would you invest your money in marketing? I think I'll end there. I have 3 more questions later I can ask. I'll give other people to ask. So any one of you can answer that question.
Okay. I don't know if Professor Chimuka has joined, but let me just maybe answer. I'll try to answer in terms of the product. For us, really, it's not ending up with, if I was to choose, you asked about if I was to choose. For me, the lower-hanging fruit in Moringa are the leaves. The question is, what do I do with the leaves? Do I end up with just Moringa tea, or extract something from the leaves and then get a product from that? A product that is different. For instance, if I know that Professor Chimuka has been involved in extracting something from the leaves, and he's making, water, tea, which are not common products. So many of the products maybe that are on the shelves are being sold, they end up just having Moringa tea on its own, or on its own, and then they don't go beyond that. And the tea can be either the leaves or the powder itself grounded. But the point is, you can go a little bit further and develop something else out of that. So that's what I can say about the product. So for me, that is a low-hanging fruit. The other point, the other thing a member should mention is that depending on what idea you want to pursue in terms of business, the way you are going to cultivate your Moringa will be different. Let me take an example. if I'm interested in the leaf biomass, then the spacing for starters will be smaller. If I'm interested in growing Moringa for seeds, then I will have larger spacings, and then I will have to wait for my trees to grow. And if I want to use my Moringa for agroforestry, and again, I have to grow it in a different way. And what I mean by agroforestry is you grow Moringa and then you put something else there. It could be spices or cabbage or something like that, which is something that you are now getting a product from Moringa and from what you are growing. So that's what I can say. So just to answer your question, for the products, the easiest is the leaves, because you can get easily more product that you want, depending on what you want to get. And as I mentioned, it's also good to even to extract a biostimulant. Now you are supplying a fertilizer to the farmers and for them to spray in their fields. So that's what I would say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was another question from the chat. Mr. Chilao, do you want to ask the question or should I ask it for you?
Let me just comment before.
Okay,
before
sure.
So I agree with what Professor Kwaambwa has said. So it depends on the market you're referring to. So if you are talking about the Zambian market, I would go for livestock. The livestock industry is struggling in Zambia on feed. So making livestock feed from Moringa would be really one ripe field, because the farmers are struggling with the imported feed. So that's one thing that you could easily go into. On the world market, cosmetics is big, so you can go into Moringa oil and have body lotion, because the natural products on the world market, people have become very conscious of natural products with low side effects, and Moringa oil is big in the cosmetics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. So there was another question. Another question on the chat from Mr. Chilao. He was asking if people that are growing Moringa can receive carbon credits.
I don't know if you have already introduced a policy for carbon credits in Zambia, but here in Namibia, the government has already introduced it. They produced a white paper last year, but it hasn't just yet taken effect. So what I can say is that it is possible. In fact, we are about to sign a contract with Deb Marine. Deb Marine is one of the diamond mining companies here in Namibia, and their idea is to use the Moringa oil for biodiesel, and at the same time get credits, carbon credits. So I think it's ultimately coming to that. But the point is that if you grow Moringa and there is that issue of getting carbon credits, you get more than someone who is just growing something else, because of the amount of CO2 the plant assimilates. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that question, I think Mr. Chilao, you should ask Mr. Nzovu. His ministry is implementing one of those carbon credit initiatives. So it's happening in Zambia as well. I think the idea is just to ask the green economy ministry their advice. So we had another question here from Mr. Gandize, and then Professor Liswaniso, and then we'll be wrapping up. Norbert, you had the question.
The question was on varieties. Are there varieties of Moringa? If so, which one is the best variety which can give the best produce once you start growing it? Thank you.
Thank you. Depending on what is being sold in Zambia, but the ones, if you see it is written PK something, they are good. That's what I can say. So far for me, they are good. Because they give me good yields in terms of biomass. And those PK ones, they are the ones that they are Moringa orifera, but different varieties. That's the word I was looking for earlier on. So what that means is that orifera, as I mentioned, is very good for biomass production. So, and the PK ones are really very good varieties. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor Esther, so you had a question also.
Mute myself again. Okay. Yeah, you've mentioned about these heavy metals that are charged, and Moringa does a good job taking them out of the water. Have you done any experiments regarding the living organisms in water that can be taken, I mean, that can be killed by Moringa, like viruses, bacteria, or stuff like that? Have you done any experiments in that regard? Also, you just talked about aflatoxins, which is very big in most, I mean, which is very common in some of these products that come from seeds, and I see that Moringa has seeds. Have you done some experiments as well in terms of shelf life with your products because of this aflatoxins really a huge menace in most of these products that come from seeds? So those two questions I want to just have a clarity on them. How do you deal with the toxins that are most likely going to develop in your products? And also, have you done some experiments on either viruses or bacteria? In Zambia, we have all this type of chlorella type of thing, chlorella and all that. Does it take care of such type of living organisms? Maybe just add on something else, just as like a little icing on the cake there. Are there some toxic ingredients in Moringa? Because everything has some good things. There's always a good part of every product, and then there's some toxins in one way or the other, regardless of the levels. So have you found out some of these? I know it's not a good thing to highlight the toxins in a product, but have you found some toxic, I mean, some toxins that might be found in this plant? Thank you.
No, thank you, Prof, for those questions. Thank you for the questions, really, Prof. Those are good questions, especially the first one, because when I finished presenting, I said I didn't say something about bacteria removal of Moringa. We have done that, and what is interesting is one of the questions we're trying to answer is, why does the Moringa interact with gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria? And that's the question we're trying to answer. And we managed to find out why that it does and why it does that. It's something that was not really known at the beginning, but I can say that we have tested different bacteria, and it has, especially these also, they have got antimicrobial bacterial properties. But with regard to the seeds removing impurities, we have really tested a few of them, and there are some which have been tested in literature whereby you can remove these bacteria. So for cholera, it's something that Moringa can deal with easily. So cholera is one of the things that we looked at, and we are able to remove it with Moringa. Then with regard to shelf life of the products, for this one, I really don't have an answer at the moment, but the point is that these the compounds like aflatoxins, as I mentioned earlier, they are normally acquired during the processing part of it. And one of the steps that is important, especially for the leaves, is the drying process. It's the way you dry your leaves. And a lot of people have complained that sometimes when they buy leaf powder from Discam, it doesn't taste the same as the leaf powder I give them away to use. The reason is all about drying. And sometimes you can tell, I can tell that this product was not done properly. Might even have something, because if you see something that is yellowish, the powder is yellowish, it should tell you something. It's all about drying. So something went wrong, was not done properly with regard to drying. But so in terms of shelf life, I think it is something that needs to be done. Once one develops a product, one of the things that one needs to do is to test its shelf life. So it's something that we haven't done. I think Professor Chimuka might have done some studies on the products he developed in terms of determining their shelf life. So that's what I can say. Then with regard to the toxic compounds, I only know of one compound, which I can't remember the name, but it's called, in general, it's called an anti-nutrient. And what it does, this compound, is the disadvantage is that it reduces the bioavailability of iron. And again, there's a way of getting around that problem. It is also to do with the boiling. So some studies that have been done is that you remove the effectiveness of this compound if you boil or something, if you boil it. So that's another way of, if you have too much of these anti-nutrients, then you need to just cut out some boiling. So that's what I can say about that. But definitely there is some compound which I can't remember the name of the color. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So we have 2 minutes before we close the discussion.
Let me just say something briefly.
Yes, please go ahead.
Some of the work we've done. So we have done work on E. coli. It's published, and Moringa also kills that. The interesting thing, we've done studies on malaria parasite. It does not kill the parasite, but interestingly, we did work in mice, published in a British journal. When we gave Moringa to these mice that had malaria, the parasite load significantly went down. And so we asked the question, is Moringa killing directly, or is it doing it indirectly? And so when we gave it to different type of mice that have no immunity, the parasite did not go down. And so we concluded then that Moringa is inducing the immune system, which in turn then kills the parasite. As for the compounds, just to add, vitamin K is not harmful, but if somebody is on blood thinners, and this may not be common in Zambia, but in the West, people with heart attacks, histories of heart attacks, are on blood thinners. The vitamin K will fight the blood thinners. And so people who are on blood thinners, they just have to be aware of that. I had a friend who was on blood thinners, is from the Philippines, but he loved Moringa. So he would take the blood thinners in the morning and Moringa in the evenings, just to separate them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that. It's amazing you mentioned the blood thinners there. Our friend Chalo posted an image of the Moringa tea from Zambia, and it says that right there on the label that if you're pregnant or you have blood thinners, please avoid this product. Unless there are any other questions, we're just going to wrap up very quickly here. Are there any questions before we do the wrap-up session? Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for your contacts. I'm going to share your contacts with everybody here so they can reach you for those specific questions. So the things that are left hanging, number one is funding. How do we get funds to you guys and to everybody else that wants to proceed with this industry? And I think that there are certain avenues. One of them is Dr. Mungule did come in front of us and tell us some ways that he can provide some funding through the CEEC. And one thing I appreciated about this presentation is that it's just not a business concept, but it's also research and development. So I think we do need these research and development facilities to help people that are practitioners and people that are wanting to take a small bite out of the big cake that Moringa is. We're going to try and get the local names of these plants so that maybe the people that have been using them for a long time, but just didn't know what the names were, could actually, they can connect the dots or put one and two together, so to speak. Lastly, I just want to thank our panelists, Dr. Kwaambwa from Namibia and Dr. Mowa. Actually, let me say it the correct way. Academic professions. Professor Kwaambwa from Namibia and Professor Mowa from the US in Dayton, and Mrs. Esther Kwaambwa, who's an ABD Oberdan PhD candidate in Northwest University in South Africa. So we thank you so much. This was a great presentation, and fellows at St. Paul's alumni are going to really benefit from this. And don't be surprised if you hear a lot of questions going forward, because they always have questions. I always have questions. And we always like to clarify and what we call to close the loop. Our school has a motto that says labor omnia vincit, which means labor conquers all. So we strive very hard to work all of us to work very hard and to work collectively. That's why we do this every month. So thank you so much. Unless you have any last comments. We'll go with Mrs. Kwaambwa. Any last comments? And we would like to encourage you to finish this PhD so you can be, teaching someplace in Nyunza.
Yes, looking forward to. I should finish soon anyway. Yes. No, thank you so much. Thank you for awarding me this opportunity. Thank you, Professor Mowa, and all the participants that were here. If they want to hear more, we are still, like I said, collecting data. So once we are finished with the first, because we are busy now with the first article. So once that is done, I will share so that people can look at what we are doing. I also still have to, I'm working on the paper with the research I said I did in Zambia, which was very interesting, in Livingstone, precisely. So yeah, I would love to see what we can do to add on to Mother Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Professor Mowa, did you want to say something?
Thank you again for inviting us. My burden is the malaria thing, the study that I alluded to. About 500,000 Africans die from malaria. And Moringa, which is basically a vegetable, which is a problem in Zambia as well, could just be that solution. And so we've created a Zambia Moringa malaria human pilot study. And so we're just looking for money. Ridgeway campus, Levi Mwanawasa Medical University, and the Tropical Disease Center in Ndola. We have already written the proposal, and we're just looking for funds. So I'm excited about that if we can only find some funds. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Perfect. Professor Kwaambwa, did you want to say some last things?
No, only to say that thank you very much for having us and for allowing us to share our ideas. I just hope that someone somewhere in Zambia will come back to us so that we can take this forward. Because I have been working on Moringa for years now, and I really need to take the benefits. Foreigners here in Namibia, they are benefiting a lot from what I'm doing. So I'm always on call to go and help them promote this, promote Moringa cultivation and so on. But I need to start now applying back the knowledge to Zambia. So that's why I recently contacted my partners, my colleagues in Germany, and they are willing to work with us. One of the pilot plants where we wanted to try to see, to test Moringa will be in Livingstone. So I'm sure soon they will be coming to Namibia, and then we'll drive to Livingstone to start assessing the situation where I can place our water treatment system. Thank you very much again for having us, and I look forward to any further discussions on Moringa. Thank you.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I hope we can give you a government vehicle and put a billboard, you know, all those white vehicles, you know, white vans. This is Professor Kwaambwa's Moringa project. Yeah, that's a joke anyways, but you know, we have Dr. Mukamba here who also has a clinic that does holistic medicine. Dr. Mukamba, you didn't say anything the whole time. Have you ever used Moringa in your practice?
Well, I've used it mainly as a food supplement, though I've not really had any research with it, and looking at how it's received is loved for that aspect. I've been listening quietly, and I have to go over the video when it's done again to get the nitty gritty. But I agree. Even in my little part-time work as in animal husbandry, Moringa is very big on that side. So if it is of value to animals, I'm sure it is also of value to human beings if we take it on that scale. So I'm looking forward to finding out more and interacting more.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much for that. You just introduced a new idea here. Makombe, have you used this in your animal husbandry as well?
No, afternoon, everybody. No, Professor, I haven't, but I must admit it's something that I will be trying now. I got access. I don't know which Moringa it is because today I had a lot of different ones. So I will be trying. I'll be running trials now on specific animals to see what I get out of them.
Wonderful.
So that one has been very good for me. Thank you for all the presenters. Thanks, Professor.
Maybe just to add on the people who are owning animals, I had a PhD student who was looking at the effect of Moringa on animals, parasites. We were just simply feeding some goats with the Moringa, and some we didn't. What we found out is that the ones we are feeding Moringa, their kids grew faster. And secondly, the animals didn't have, those who were taking Moringa didn't have the parasites, whereas we found parasites in the other ones. So you can imagine if you just have a plantation and then you're just throwing leaves to your goats or something like that, they'll be healthy. Parasites will no longer be there. We tested 3 parasites and we didn't find any in the ones we were feeding Moringa. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good observation study right there. Yeah, that's a wonderful one. I think maybe you shouldn't just let the goats roam around, because then they'll eat what we say, they'll eat everything. Anyways, yeah. But
So
yeah,
how long can a moringa tree live? I've seen very tall trees where I used to climb in a moringa tree when I was young. I used to be the harvester for these leaves and stuff. So how long can it live? It can live forever, eh? It's not 100 years, 25 years.
I don't know, but the tree I have at the house, we have had it since 2013.
Yeah, I see.
The two trees, yeah.
I'm interested to go back to my home and see whether that tree is still there, because I still remember it as a young man.
Wow. When you find out, please let us know whether it's still there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been very enjoyable. And these things just don't end with the presentation. They always bring more questions. And since we have the contact information from our panelists, I'm going to be directing those questions to you going forward. And then we're also going to share the video here in a couple of hours once it has finished rendering with our St. Paul's alumni associations and also with the panelists. So thank you so much, and please enjoy your Friday and be safe, and yeah, all the best to your families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pro. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.